Hey, hello everyone, thanks very much for coming. So yes, I'm Elena Holmes and I have the best job in the world. I tell people what to eat and actually I get paid for it, so better than that. Oh, thank you. And I have been vegan for almost 17 years already. So, yes, today's talk, it's quite a topic, isn't it? I think yesterday or 2 years ago there was an article on BBC Future again and again and again criticizing vegans, saying how naive and how mistaken and how misled poor vegans are, thinking that their diet will do them good, will do good for their health, thinking that their diet is good for the environment, and so on and so on and so on. And focus of that article was mainly on meat alternatives. But as non-vegans like to remind us very much, there is never just one side to anything. So yes, alternative meats, from my sort of health-biased nutritionist's point of view, they have quite a few negative sides. They have quite a few positive sides as well, and I think I have to talk about them. So yes, the good, the not so good. You could argue, very rightly, that lab-grown meats, they are not vegan, because they are grown from animal cells, or either muscle cells or stem cells. But I think I should mention them because, although at the moment they are still at the experimental stage, they are going to enter our lives pretty soon. And also they are alternative meats as well. And why whole foods plant-based diet? There were many people before me who talked about that, and they will be doing that later today and tomorrow, so I'll just mention it. So, yes, alternative meat. Definition. Well, there are many sort of very similar definitions. So I'll read it. I was too lazy to memorize, but more or less this one sums it up. Alternative meat, or meat alternative, is a manufactured food item which is plant-based, lab-grown, or uses ingredients other than livestock, such as insects, and which aims to be similar to meat by pointing out shared attributes and relations. So that's it. This very, very, very old picture, well, you can see it's quite unclear, shows future vegan. And it's not, yeah, it's really unclear, but the future vegan is eating peas from the pod. And it has also an apple holding. So, because perish the thought to run out of plant-based foods. So, yeah, so this person is still not a vegan, but you can see the potential there. And I'm showing this picture because when I became vegetarian 33 years ago, there were no such thing as meat alternatives, nor there were 17 years ago. So either you eat beans or die. Well, that's a bit dramatic, but you get the idea. Then, oops, oh, how do I go back? Sorry. Yes. So, and this leads me to the first really positive thing about alternative meats. So these are Beyond Meat sausages, just in case. And I live in Yorkshire, and Yorkshire people love their bangers. And you would be surprised how many people come to my clinic and they say, oh, I would love to be vegan, but I love my bangers. Or I love my sausages and whatever. And actually, meat alternatives, I might not like them, I might have my own opinion. They are very, very, very good stepping stone, both from psychological and also from physiological point of view. psychological is obvious. If you grow up eating meat and 2 veg, or usually meat and half a veg, more or less, jumping straight into whole foods, plant-based diet might be a bit unusual, a bit too much. If you don't know how to cook bean casseroles and stuff, again, there may be some failures and stuff, which again discourages. So, yeah. Another thing also, if you're not used to eat much fiber, you know all those jokes about fireworks or gas chambers with beans and so on. So again, I think for some people, not for everyone, some people are better at or have better composition of gut bacteria. So they are better at transferring to whole foods, plant-based diet based on vegetables, fruits, pulses, nuts and seeds. Some people might have some problems. So alternative meats, which among some of their negative sides, they have very little fiber, might be again a good thing to gradually start eating more healthy vegan diet, whole foods, plant-based diet. Another thing, family savers. What I mean by that, it's quite often that just a half of the family or a third of a family or a quarter of a family decides to become vegan. Other members of the family, they might need more time to get the message and to get there, again, for many reasons. And I noticed that those sausages and burgers or whatever they are, all like meatballs, they are really, really good compromise point for the families of both meat eaters, non-meat eaters. Time savers, well, that speaks for itself. It's time saving, and sometimes we don't have time, and that's the truth. So again, an obvious point, but good to mention. Also because some people could eat a piece of bread with hummus and raw vegetables. Some people would not like the idea at all. I just put this article, although it relates more to the next slide, but I don't know if you can see it. It was published on The Guardian, obviously, 11th of January of this year, and really fantastic and quite hilarious article about those pesky vegans who annoy meat eaters. So, well, if you find it, yeah, you read it, so I will not tell more. But there was one very, very good message that as long as vegan options were boring, tasteless, and pathetic, I don't think he uses the word pathetic, I think I just improvised on this. As long as vegan options were rubbish, meat eaters were okay with them. But as soon as meat alternatives, vegan meat alternatives became good, nice looking, appetizing, and tasting probably better than their meat originals, meat eaters started getting annoyed. And that's absolutely true. I don't know how much you noticed that, but so, yes. And this is what I particularly like. And again, it's by Charles Newkey Bird. And I know he gave a talk last year in this conference. I don't know if he's this year, but very, very good vegan activist and a journalist, and always nails it. So, yes, his article from the 7th of January 2020 talks about normalizing veganism, and I just love it because it's true. Now, with all the progress, all the booming veganuary and everything, it's still, vegans are regarded as something a bit anomalous, or something a bit from tree huggers or rainbow breathers world or something. And it's usually when they say vegan, you have to have 5 E's in the word. So vegan, she's vegan. So maybe that's just me who notices these details. But so yes, and Charles quotes from one of his friends, vegans, who has a teenage son, and who said, "Mom, I can now go into Greg's with my friends. I'm not the odd one out anymore." And I think this is massive. And as well as fast food options are important for the image of veganism. We're constantly told veganism is expensive and a middle-class privilege. So this helps counter the argument that it's elitist. You can't argue with that veganism is expensive. Well, I'll get back to that a bit later, but it just, yeah, it's so prevailing. Hopefully not for long. So my favorite word, but. So all this is nice and cute and everything, and very, very, very positive. But let's have a look at several brands of most common meat alternatives, which you can buy, well, in any major supermarket, probably some health food shops, though I see a little contradiction in that. So Impossible Burger, I think everyone knows. I don't know if everyone tried. I haven't, but by the way, oh yes, it's working, yes. I can hear strange fluctuations in the sound. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Okay, thank you. I should have asked that in the beginning. But so yes, Impossible Burger, 1 serving. That's from the Impossible Foods web page. Impossible Foods, who produce Impossible Burger. So 1 serving has 8 grams of saturated fat, 40% of recommended daily intake. That's massive. It's not true. I know some people think that we can get saturated fats only from animal foods. No, that's not true. Oils have saturated fat. Nuts like Brazil nuts or the most delicious macadamia nuts, hazelnuts, they have saturated fats, as much as we need. So yeah, so if you get that amount from 1 burger, you can easily overdo it. And notwithstanding all the controversy, because there are opinions who say that saturated fat is absolutely fine, immerse yourself in butter, coconut butter, whatever, you'll be just fine. I sort of support the school of thought that too much saturated fat is not good. It's pro-inflammatory, and it can lead to different heart and blood vessel problems, and so on. So yes, omega-6 from sunflower oil. Again, omega-6 is an essential fatty acid. We need it. Our body can't make it. But the problem with Western diet is that people get too much of it, usually from oils like sunflower oil, also peanut oil, soybean oil, and then it can cause quite a few problems. Heme iron. Now, I'll mention heme iron a bit later, but I put this one because it's absolutely fascinating what I read on their website. Practically, why do they use heme iron? Heme iron gives that very specific meaty, I would say bloody taste to the burger. And normally, there are no plants that would have heme iron. All plants have non-heme iron. But the researchers from Impossible Foods labs in California, they identified heme iron in the roots of soybean plant. They identified the gene, they took the gene out and inserted it into yeast that they grow in their labs. So an epitome of genetical engineering. And then they extract that heme iron from genetically modified yeast and they add it to burgers. So more natural than that, I would say. So yes, this is again from Impossible Foods website. Just yeah. So practically what I said, all those vitamins and stuff, they are all added, or more or less all added. So again, we can get these things like B group vitamins, calcium, iron, potassium from raw, not necessarily raw, but from whole food plant-based diet. So, another one, Beyond Meat, again, very, very common and very popular in the shops. Nowadays, loved by many. They have meatballs, they have burgers, we have sausages. So again, it's made from pea protein, rice protein, mung bean protein. Again, plenty of fat, a bit less than the Impossible Burger, still loads. Potato starch. So all good nutrients, but good nutrients when they are in the foods and not when they are extracted and then mixed and then put together and then again sort of, yeah, makes me think about Frankenstein or something like that. So, also because we get, there is a very nice concept which I just love, which is called food synergy. When we eat foods and not things like burgers, like meat alternatives, but real foods, let's say beans, whole grains, vegetables, all the nutrients come together in that food matrix, and then our body takes what it needs, does not take what it doesn't need, so it's hardly possible to overdo with any of the nutrients eating whole foods. So food synergy, food matrix, and not something like yeah, like a puzzle, jigsaw puzzle. Well, Beyond Meat and the Impossible Burger, they were both invented and made in California, which again I find a bit funny because California has Seventh-day Adventists, so the healthiest living vegan community in the world, and they also have these things, so quite interesting. Are English manufacturers. So again, I just took a screenshot instead of writing. So just look at what it is, what it consists of. Way less fat, but my favorite word again, flavored rehydrated soya protein. Mind you, I like soya. Soya, especially fermented soya, so traditional soya-based products, they are fantastic. But this is, again, okay, it's protein, it does not have fiber, it does not have isoflavones, so biologically active, health-promoting nutrients in soya. Does not have much, most of the things why soya is so good. Then, yeah, water, soya protein, I don't know why it's in capitals, but, well, they just wanted to rub it in. Maltodextrin, it's a type of starch which is used as a thickener. It's made from corn starch, potato starch, rice starch, and it also extends shelf life of the products. Natural flavors, whatever they are. Sunflower oil, again, omega-6. We don't need too much of that. All that we need of omega-6 we get from nuts and seeds. Gelling agent, methyl cellulose. Again, yes, gelling, it helps to create that meat-like texture. And yeah, so thickener, filler. It's also used as bulk forming laxative. I did not have to say this in this context, but here we are. Seasoning, onion, pepper, that's okay. Flavoring, whatever they are. Rice flour, yeah, okay. Psyllium are seeds or husks, and they act like egg whites, so they are binders. Chicory fiber, well, there could be better ways, like eating chicory itself or something, instead of extracting fiber and then adding it again. So yeah, I don't know what about you, but it looks a bit interesting when you look at the ingredients under the microscope. Nothing lethal, nothing really bad, but. Well, everyone knows Greg's. I have to confess, I still haven't tried this one because, well, there is a saying about an old dog and new tricks, so I'm afraid. So, yes, and again, if we have a look at vegan sausage roll, vegan steak bake, and things like that. Again, the usual offenders, the usual culprits, saturated fats, salt and stuff, so something that it's absolutely fine if we eat something like that once in a while, but definitely not for every day. Okay. Yeah, this is another picture of a vegan who has their own sort of impression and reaction to these foods. So what's a reassumption? What's not so good about those alternative meats? Nutritional value, so both what they have that we don't want to overdo and what they don't have, because as I mentioned, food matrix, food synergy, they don't have that. Also, the more the food is processed, the more nutrients it loses. As we saw, those makers of burgers, they add vitamins and everything, but it's not the same. It's definitely not the same. Lack of dietary fiber, which is one of the most important things in foods, and the more research appears on dietary fiber, the clearer it is how important it is. So yes, another not so good thing about these meats, it's environment. Again, any processing requires energy, and the more energy intensive the making of something is, the worse it is. So yes, also storage, because usually those things, they need either freezing or be kept in the fridge, so which means also if you transport them, it requires quite a bit of extra energy. Not like a bag of beans that you can keep in your cupboard for 3 years and they will be okay, unless it's very musty or they are eaten by mice or things like that. I don't know which one is less appetizing, especially this one with blue against red, whatever. Lab-grown meats. So yes, since they are alternative meats, I would like to mention them. But if you ask, are they vegan food? No, they aren't. They're made from animal cells, harming as little animals as possible, but still, they are animal food. So no, they are not vegan. And the position of the vegan society also is that they are not vegan. So lab-grown meats, they're made from animal stem cells, growth medium, another very appetizing thing like bovine fetal serum and all that stuff. So yes, I think a bit of harming as well. Health concerns. So for me as a nutritionist, since we know that meat has quite a few things that we don't want to overdo with, so if those lab-grown meats resemble chemically real animal meat, they have all the stuff that we don't want to, like now 5Gs, it's neuraminic, oh, I have it written somewhere, I just wanted to be posh and throw in some long posh words. Glycolyl neuraminic acid, or sialic acid also called. This acid triggers our immune system and creates low-grade inflammation. So heme iron, again, the research shows that people, especially elderly people who have certain types of cancers, usually they have higher accumulation of heme iron in their body. So saturated fats, we talked about them. Animal protein, too much of animal protein is linked to several cancers, heart disease, kidney disease. TMAO, trimethylamine oxide, so another posh word. Actually, meat does not have it, but the gut bacteria of meat eaters is of a certain composition. So meat eaters have certain strains of gut bacteria, which, when we eat things containing choline or lecithin, and things like beans, soya, cabbages, peanuts, or when people eat meat, especially eggs and meat, those bacteria produce this substance, TMAO, which is linked again to heart and blood vessel disease. People who eat mainly or exclusively plant-based diets, they have very few or maybe don't have at all of those specific bacterial strains. And, well, of course, the lack of dietary fiber, and that's a lot. Fiber, it's not just something that makes you go. Fiber is necessary for healthy composition of gut bacteria, and if our gut is healthy, we are healthy. So yes, same problem, even bigger problem as with alternative burgers and things. Lab-grown meats, they are very, very resource intensive. They need certain temperature, they need sterile environment, they need growth medium, so all that stuff. But again, another stepping stone, yes, definitely, for those hardcore meat eaters. They could be very, very useful. But yeah, so of course the question is where one draws the line, what's vegan, what's not vegan, but there is no question that these lab-grown or cultured meats, as they are called, even if there are some animals harmed or some animal cells used, the harm is way, way, way less than from butchering, slaughtering, obviously. Pet food, actually I quite like it because, well, one of the problems or one of the main reasons why some vegans have discordances between them, it's if we can feed things like cats, for example, obligate carnivores, vegan diet. So it looks really, yeah, it could be such a good idea that vegans could have carnivore pets and feed them with things that are not harming animals and not harming their pets. And another aspect that I really like about pet food, from what I read, that some pet food manufacturers who are considering lab-grown meats for making pet food, they said that they are waiting until lab-grown meats are being commonly used or become a mainstream product for human consumption. And then pet food manufacturers will act accordingly. So I think that's so nice and so fair. It's usually that everything is experimented on animals and then transferred to humans. And at least with this, it's the other way around. So I like it. It's not a lab-grown meat. It's something in between those Impossible Burgers or Beyond Meat and lab-grown meat. This is a 3D printed steak. And yeah, you can see it's Nova Meat. It's a Spanish or actually Catalonian company. So yeah, they use plant-based ingredients like, again, soya protein, pea protein, starches, beetroot juice for the color. And yes, and they are working on inventing a 3D printer to reproduce as realistic a steak as possible. Because all those Impossible Burgers and things like that, they taste-wise, they do resemble meat. I don't know, I haven't tried them and I can't remember how meat tastes, honestly. But that's what those who eat these things, they say. So yeah, it's quite okay with reproducing the taste, but it's the texture that's still not there. So these Nova meat from Barcelona, and also I think it's called Redefine Meat in Israel, another company. So they are working on 3D printed meat. And yes, very briefly, because as I mentioned, others have covered, I think, all the possible and imaginable aspect of this. But why 100% whole foods, plant-based? Well, yeah, it speaks for itself, I think. I don't know, at least for me. So yes, so it's health, obviously, all micronutrients. Whereas some vitamins, some minerals, proteins or macronutrients like proteins, some carbs and fats, you can get them in animal foods. What you don't get in any animal food is phytochemicals, so nutrients that are neither vitamins nor minerals, but they are very, very important molecules, important for our well-being, health, cell protection, so antioxidants, anti-carcinogenic, and anti-inflammatory, and we get them only from plant foods, and the less processed, the better. Dietary fiber. Oh, I should actually have written fibers, because there are many, many, many types of fibers, and each type of fiber feeds different strain of beneficial gut bacteria. And as I said, our health lies in our gut. So, and the absence of health-damaging compounds from animal foods. Yes. Ethics, again, I don't think I need to mention that, it's obvious. And of course, ecology and planetary health. So again, it speaks for itself. But that's not all. I think there's one more I think that's some sort of misunderstanding between my computer and anyway, you can see it says costs, and I think this is absolutely important and relevant for most of us. Because vegans are so often sort of referred to as some ultra-rich, whatever, elitist people who spend hundreds of pounds for food. And yes, just a couple of examples. So pulled oomph, so one of the oomph products. So this is discounted, it's £2. Well, I think you can see from the font which supermarket I go shopping. Well, actually it says. So, yes, so it's practically, if you're not terribly hungry, that's a part of the meal for two people, £2, which is discounted, otherwise like $3.50, and they cost more or less the same, all those products in all the supermarkets, so the prices are quite similar. Yes, Tesco red split lentils, 1 kilo, which I think could be like 20 portions. And of course you could say, well, if you cook lentils, you need to add other things like spices, other vegetables and stuff. So of course, yes, well, let's look at a seasonal local food like Tesco red cabbage and things like that. Prices are different and they keep us going for long. So that's it, yes, less processing, less packaging, less labor intensive, less energy intensive, cheaper, 1,000 times healthier. So yes, are alternative meats a quick fix? Yes, I think I can say that. Yes, they are. Are they potential troublemakers? Yes, especially on a long term and in large quantities, as a party-spoiling nutritionist. I would say yes, very likely. And how soon they start, if you rely on them as a staple food, how soon they will start giving you problems. It depends, because we are all very different. We have different resilience, we have different weak spots in our body, but they are very, very likely potential troublemakers. And yes, alternative meats are alternatives to meat, but not to the whole foods, plant-based diet. So that's, that's my opinion. And so yeah, thank you very much. And